That means something happens like Russell Westbrook gets traded.
Yep, and we did miss you, but the good news for you today is that Chris Paul is sounding like maybe, just maybe, he wants to go to Miami now.
This is good for people in Miami. Also, Coach K seems to think that Zion Williamson's out of shape.
Yeah, thick with all of the C's is what Coach K is signaling about his former player. But we begin today.
Why did y'all take thick?
We begin today with Giannis Antetokounmpo. The reigning MVP has two updates, Bo, that should send a thrill up Milwaukee's leg. First, Giannis says that he is just at 60% of his basketball potential. And then there is this quote. As long as we have the same mindset and same approach to the game, there is no reason for me to move and not be like Steph, not be like Dirk or Kobe or Tim Duncan. End quote. So, Bo, what does Giannis sound like there to you?
He sounds like a guy with 2 years left on his contract. Why not say these things when you have 2 years left on your contract? There's been a bit of a building action while you've been there. You were just as successful as you've ever been. The way he sees it, next year, the sky's the limit. They can win a championship. But if they don't win no championship next year and that clock starts ticking on that contract and he's got to decide whether this is the place to give the best years of his career, then what he says matters a little more than it does right now.
Yeah, it sounds adorable right now because Giannis, whenever he does anything, there is a certain presumption of innocence there, but there might be some strategy here too. There might be strategy in the reality that if he were to say anything short of what he said, if he were to say, my contract is up in 2 years, if he were to say, I'm going to look around the league and figure out which place is a best fit for me, we would be doing what we already did last week, which is pointing out that lots of teams like the Toronto Raptors are interested in getting Giannis, and Giannis maybe just wanted to shut the door to all of the speculation that's already kind of entered the entryway there.
Yeah, but I mean, if that's his plan, that's not going to work. Right?
No.
He could say it to us over and over again, no matter how many times he wants to. Remember that time Kyrie lied to those kids? In fact, I feel like he lied to kids twice when he said he wasn't going to leave one place and then said he wasn't going to leave another. So, no, I don't buy it on that front, but I think he believes it at this point. And I can see exactly where he's coming from on it. But if I'm him, I look at the fact that they let Malcolm Brogdon walk on that contract over some money. A dude that with $1 zillion in his bank account couldn't find a way to pony up to keep this dude who could make our team better. Those are the kinds of microaggressions that build up. And when it really becomes time to make the decision, now you've got to weigh it. Right now, there's just nothing to lose from saying what he's saying.
And the Brogdon departure does bring us to the whole thing of him thinking he's at 60%, because the thing that he is going to have to do that Brogdon brought to the team is make threes. And in the playoffs, he was at like 30-something%, which is a positive sign for the rest of his potential.
Up next, Anthony Davis, who was finally introduced as a Laker Friday. Davis made it clear he prefers to play the 4, but is willing to play center. But the money quote was his show of confidence in his new team's roster. Let us watch.
It's going to be a fun season. I like our roster. I like every player that we have, 1 through 14. So I'm excited about it, and I'll put our roster up against anybody. I feel like that, in the 7-game series, that we'll come out victorious.
Pablo, you feel as good about the Lakers as Davis?
I don't feel as good. If we were playing NBA Jam and we were going by duos, I would feel just as good as he does, but I still take the Clippers' depth, the Clippers' defense, the Clippers' shooting over what the Lakers offer. But Davis has to say this, man, because Davis had his new team trade all this stuff for 1 year of Anthony Davis. He was going to go to LA anyway. And so when it comes to being all in on this season, that is the guy who must be more all in than anybody else.
I don't think he had to say it because of the trade. He had to say it because what else are you supposed to say? I think our roster, there's some teams that we could probably beat, man. But I was looking at the Clippers and I don't know. Nobody's going to say that, right? Like, it's obvious, that part. But where you say that if this were NBA Jam, but it kind of is NBA Jam. When you have 2 of maybe the 5 best players in the NBA, depth only matters but so much. And in the playoffs, when you're only going 7 or 8 deep, depth is probably the most overrated commodity that a team can have. Now, we're going to have to see how this all comes together, because 1 through 14 don't matter. 1 through 8 is probably what it is. I don't know from here what the personality of that team is ultimately going to be, how they're going to try to get this done. But if I've got LeBron and Anthony Davis, you're damn right I'm going to say we got a chance in a 7-game series against anybody, because you should.
And you mentioned the personality of this team being a thing we'll discover. We just discovered some stuff about Anthony Davis in this press conference. He also said, beyond not wanting to play the 5, that he doesn't want to load manage at all. And so one of the key factors when it comes to how healthy will he be come April, May, and June when it's 1 through 8, I would wonder, is that a position that he's willing to back off of when cooler heads prevail on this? Because playing 82 is not a good idea for him.
Who cares if he wants to? right? Like, he doesn't have the full vote on that one. The other one, again, we talked about this last week, and you raised the question about whether or not LeBron and Anthony Davis will be there in April, May, and June. Before last season, Davis played 61 games with the Pelicans, but there were all kinds of shenanigans going on. Sure. We don't know exactly what. The 2 years before that, he played 75 games apiece. LeBron James has been like an indestructible figure for too much time. And in fact, was too dedicated in recent times to the idea of playing 82 games. They are probably going to tell these dudes to sit here and there. They probably aren't going to like it. Maybe you can't make LeBron do it. You can absolutely make Anthony Davis do it.
Well, and they should make him do it, except for the fact that he is a free agent after this year, once again. And what he said in his press conference was kind of telling, or what he didn't say. He didn't say, I'm obviously going to re-up. He said, we'll see how we do when the offseason comes. But up next is Novak Djokovic, who continues to force himself into history. Bomani the Joker outlasted Roger Federer in the longest men's singles final in Wimbledon history, a 5-set, 4-hour, and 57-minute epic. The All-England crowd was openly cheering for Federer, but how should all of us regard Djokovic now?
I mean, Djokovic is maybe, just maybe, the third best men's tennis player of all time. And we're probably putting it behind these two dudes that he plays with and has been consistently like in this era with them. Like, this is a golden era, at least at the top of men's tennis there. Now, I am helicoptering in to talk about tennis in this way, so don't get yourself mixed up thinking I'm speaking with some level of expertise. But what he winds up being, at the very least, is a dude that's enjoyable to watch play. And where you have Nadal, who's just kind of there, and Federer and the fans that he has, Djokovic is the one that for a lot of people, for whatever reason, was a lot easier to dislike. His climb to the top was a little bit more arduous, a few stops along the way in order to get there. But this is not nearly as much fun without the presence of this particular character.
Yes, and this particular character had one of those days that felt like a metaphor for his entire career, and we just saw him eating some grass there, and it is funny. When Les Miles does it, people love it. He's charming, charismatic. When Djokovic does it, as Brian Phillips pointed out on The Ringer, it feels thirsty, like he wants people to like him because he is widely disliked. And so when it comes to this match, you had a crowd that was openly pro-Federer. They were booing, essentially, Djokovic at various points here. But instead what happens is Djokovic forces himself onto a broken symmetry. No, it's not just about the two. In fact, I've won 4 of the last 5 men's singles in terms of the championships. Why can't I be considered the greatest player of this decade?
You seem oddly surprised that the fans of college football in Louisiana might regard eating grass a little differently than people who watch tennis in Europe. I feel like there's an equivalence that we cannot make here. Now, I would now like to see Les Miles as tennis player. Like, if we could have a Les Miles character in tennis that could work, maybe that would be the jam.
I would absolutely want to see Les Miles do all.
I believe Zion should have never played in Summer League for the Pelicans. Pablo, should the Pelicans have noticed this before playing him a single minute?
Before playing a single minute, we did not know that he was going to hit his knee against someone else's knee. I don't know how obvious that should have been to the New Orleans Pelicans and their esteemed new medical staff. However, this does sort of illustrate a thing that Zion will be dealing with as we move on here. Hindsight with him, when it comes to his health, is going to be so crystal clear. Because Coach K is saying something that other people are already thinking. This guy doesn't seem like he is the right size to have a long and healthy NBA career.
Is that what he said, though? It just sounded like he said he thought he was out of shape. That feels like a bit of an extrapolation from there. He's out of shape. It's not because his body doesn't exist in this space, right? Here's my question for Coach K. Who do you think all them people showed up to see? They sold that arena out that first night. 17,500 people in there. Who do you think they came to see? They came to see that dude. It would not matter how far out of shape that dude was. He was going to play at least one game. And I do think it's fair to say, no matter what you've been doing for this last month, because he's not the only person who was doing these things. RJ Barrett was doing a whole lot of this stuff. You should be in good enough shape to play at least one Summer League game. The Pelicans should be in a position to say, okay, this is too much. But as you put it, the injury he suffered was not one that comes from being out of shape. That was just a bad break.
But I am somebody who subscribes to the Al Roker theory of enjoying Zion Williamson. Zion at his biggest, at his thickest, is more fun. It's more enjoyable and more entertaining. Bo, you know that. Do you agree that Al Roker before the whole surgery was more fun to have?
I want you to stop saying thick. That's all I want. That's all I'm asking for here. I understand you and yours have somehow found out about this word decades after other people have using it. And it sounds cute and cheeky when you do it, to the point where you're saying he's at his best when his thick is like you've only seen him in one size. How do you know this?
Well, why can't I say thick? I believe it's going to be in the dictionary at some point, and I do agree. Appropriating thickness is a problem, but I will say this too. I've been long on record as saying Al Roker as a fat dude, way better than Al Roker as a thin dude. And if I stepped over the line by saying thick, I apologize, but he is thick and he is better that way.
If you're going to make that reference, you use it. This dude's name's Angelo Sharpless, and that was pretty incredible.
He is a Harlem Globetrotter, and that is a Harlem Globetrotter thing to do, except that guy doesn't seem to be a Washington General.
No, he looks just like a Washington General there. I think they got some of it's a mix, right?
Oh, yeah, there might be a diversity initiative at some point. Yeah. First number, $111 million. Because the Wizards can give Bradley Beal a 3-year, $111 million extension on July 26th. But according to the Washington Post's Candace Buckner, Beal signing the extension is not viewed as a done deal around the league. She also quotes a league source who predicts Beal is, quote, out of there, end quote. So, Bo, would the Wizards be smart to deal him now?
I don't understand the point for either of them, of him being in Washington. I don't. Like, I figured like the first order of business for a new general manager would have been to trade him, except it took him forever to even think about how to get a general manager in place in the first place. But look, they're going to be bad. He's not going to sell any tickets, and giving him a 3-year, $111 million deal is not going to lead them to build towards your future. He's not that dude. So what's the point of this?
The weird thing about Bradley Beal now is that there is an order of operations that I think he wants to see. Number one, as he said, he wants to see who his GM is, because they do not have a general manager. And then he wants to see what that hypothetical human being is going to do with John Wall. Because John Wall currently has the worst contract in the NBA, as we talk about that a lot these days, 4 years, $170 million or so. And so if you're Brad Beal, do you really think that GM's going to move that contract anywhere else with Wall hurt?
You keep saying that. You said that we need to see who the new GM is. No, you don't. The fact that they don't have a GM right now tells you everything you need to know. Well, they're going to literally have to find a person that no one has ever thought of. They're going to have to be smarter than everybody else to explain the fact that they don't have a general manager right now. And has there ever been a time that the Washington Wizards have demonstrated themselves to be smarter than anybody else, let alone smarter than everybody else?
The one person I can think of would be, we've suddenly and surprisingly hired Jerry West. Maybe then this all pays off, but Bo, I ask you this too. Bradley Beal is kind of a special player in that he fits on every team, right? There's going to be such a market for him healthy. Why not capitalize on that now?
24. Because Serena Williams is still one match shy of tying Margaret Court's record for 24 Grand Slam singles titles after losing to Simona Halep at Wimbledon on Saturday. Pablo, how do you explain her recent struggles in the finals?
It seems like her recent struggles are self-explanatory, except for the fact that we still believe in the unrelenting willpower of Serena Williams and her ability to shape reality at her will. Because Serena's 37. Simona is 27. Simona played so well in this match. She steamrolled Serena, only had 3 unforced errors to Serena's 26. Like, it hasn't been close in these finals that she's been losing, and it seems like it's a father time thing as much as it is anything else.
I mean, it's not unreasonable to think that. The thing with Serena is, I remember the first time I said on television that we got to think about father time. That was 7 years ago, right? She has defied that at every turn. But again, this becomes in part a case of us not really doing this tennis thing and we helicopter in. We don't know that much about the people that she's playing against. Apparently, the draw this year opened up pretty nicely for her, and this was easily the toughest opponent that she had faced up until this point. But no, it is ridiculous of us to expect Serena, because she is a metaphorical superwoman, to be an actual real live superwoman this far into her 30s on the court. It is possible that she might not win another one of these. I'm not saying that's absolutely what's going to happen, but it is not implausible to look at any 37-year-old and say, you know, you probably played better yesterday than you will tomorrow.
Right. At Wimbledon in 2018, she lost to Kerber, who I believe was like at least 6 years younger than her. Osaka, obviously, a lot younger than her.
But I mean, everybody younger than her at this point.
Right. But the point is that when you add all of that stuff to the fact that she is a mom and that very few players in history have ever tried to be a working mother competing at this level, it all adds up to maybe there are limits on being the greatest ever, even if your great is that unique.
And of course, I also feel like just by saying this, get ready for the U.S. Open, where she will dominate and not lose a set. Like, I feel like I have
also that.
The Hive should be happy. I've done it for you. Oh, there you go, Jasmine.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Wow.
Please.
We can barely get Jasmine to talk at the desk. And while I'm doing a TV show, she's like, yeah, that's us. In closing, I often complain about this new breed of parents is out here letting their kids win at stuff. Check this out. Seems Derek Carr is a throwback in many senses of the word. Boom! That's right.
That is a loud sound.
We should have done one of these things, though, where we like do a mock-up and put my face over Derek Carr's and Pablo's over one of the kids, because that's probably what it would look like.
I wish you made one where it's your face on Derek Carr and the word thick on that little kid. Although that's a thing I should not say,
Wow.
because that kid should not be labeled as such.
What an amazing reach. What were you trying to do there?
Well, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor for your rejection of my attempt at being a cool, hip kid on the internet saying things that cool, hip kids say.
Oh, yes.
But this is good parenting to you, I would assume.
Absolutely. Check out Jason Tatum, by the way, at his basketball camp. I don't think that this is being a good camp counselor, but, I mean, this is how you get to the NBA, kids. Sneaking in a push-off.
You really had to go Byron Russell on him.
Brian.
Thank you. I always mess that up. But you had to go Brian Russell on him, kid.
After
really?
you have to ask, you can't dial it up.
That's my kind of life strategy, arguably.
That is wow. I mean, that kid paid money for this, right? I give the kid credit, too, for playing some for real defense. That I must say.
But Jason Tatum, yeah, that is an adult and a reminder that probably didn't enjoy being infantilized by his teammates last year, if that was a thing with the Kyrie Irving situation. But hey, in closing,
all right,
I'd like to take a moment to thank everyone in this video for sacrificing themselves at the altar of internet content. You familiar with Dolores Street in San Francisco, Bo?
What?
This is Dolores Street in San Francisco.
Oh, I don't know anything about this.
And here is a lot of people bombing down Dolores Street in San Francisco.
Why?
Because skateboarding is real metal. Yo.
Whoa, is that African American?
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, man. Skateboarding is cool among all the kids these days. All of them.
No, I'm not saying. Oh, no, that was definitely an African American. Wow. We normally don't show up to these kind of parties.
No, and the people who did show up to the party, by the way, standing real close to the people who were obviously flying into the crowd, may have what,